Hey guys, Matt here. So Hyliion has earnings coming up next week, I think exactly next week, and I want to go over a couple of things. One, I want to go over how I feel about Hyliion right now as a shareholder. I own about 230 some odd shares, so I want to go over how I feel about Hyliion right now as someone who owns shares in it. I want to go over what I expect, what I want to see in the earnings coming up, and I also want to tell you what I'm doing with the stock. Now, just as a spoiler alert, I will be saying mostly good things about Hyliion because it is a company I love. It is a company I, see great things going forward, but I will say some critical things about this company and this stock. Now, if you are someone who really just wants to, sit in an echo chamber to where, your YouTuber only says good things about the stock you like, well, this ain't the video for you. But if you like someone who's a little bit critical, then stay tuned. So I started investing in Hyliion in February because it was a company that I had been interested in for a while, but I did not like the company at their current price. I think at one time they were trading in the 50s. I was not touching Hyliion at that price. No offense. I really like the company. I really think they're going to be amazing in the next 10 years. I was not buying Hyliion at $50. No, not at all. I started getting into them in February at roughly $16.59. And if you've been following EV stocks for a while, you know that February was a time where, the bottom sort of fell out for EV stocks everywhere. And as the price kept dropping, I kept buying more. And I gotta say that, Hyliion's performance up to now, I've been very pleased with them. The Hypertrophy Erection, let me see if I have the right thing. The Hypertrophy Erection is expected to demo at the second half of this year, and they're expected to go full customization in 2022. And everything I've seen from the news, everything I've seen on their Twitter posts, Hyliion seems to be well on their way to releasing this Hypertrophy Erection. We've seen some customer interest. We've seen recently we got Detmar reserving 300 of the Erection units when they come out next year. And also, not pictured here, they also ordered 10 of the hybrids. So I am very pleased with Hyliion, and I think that over the next 5 to 10 years, that Hyliion is going to be a major contender in the EV space. The CEO, Thomas Hyliion, I really like this guy. Now, one thing I will say, and this is something I heard on Financial Education about CEOs in general. There are a lot of CEOs that are really good at selling themselves, and there are CEOs that aren't really good at selling themselves. Now, if you look at CEOs as sort of an RPG where you got different characters with different stats and stuff, I don't know if Thomas Hyliion is the best at selling himself and selling the company. Like, as far as like a high charisma stack, he's more of a high intelligence. If you're an RPG nerd like I am, you know what I'm talking about. He's more of a high int CEO. So instead of, being really good at selling himself, he seems to be more focused on doing, more focused on accomplishing things than, actually being, selling himself and talking shit, in other words. And to be perfectly honest, I will take Thomas Hyliion over Trevor Milton any day of the week. I really like this guy. I've watched all the interviews with him. Well, I watched all the interviews I found of him, and he seems to be very smart, very focused, very results driven, very logical guy, and I really like him. I really like him a lot. Now, as far as the earnings go, and I'm gonna segue into the earnings part while still sprinkling in my opinions on the company. One thing I do need to point out, if you're new to this channel or Hyliion, is that at this point, as of the time of this video, Hyliion is pre-revenue. They have not made any sales yet. They have not, booked any revenue. Right now, we have analyst estimates pegging them at 840K. Now, Hyliion said in their last earnings call that they're expected to recognize revenue at the latter half of this year from their hybrids. So I am not expecting Hyliion to post revenue this quarter. Now, I'll be very, very surprised, very pleasantly surprised if they book revenue this quarter, but I'm not expecting that to happen. Now, when I'm evaluating a company that's pre-revenue, how do I judge their success or lack thereof after I've invested into the stock? Well, I like to do it by whether the company is meeting or not meeting the goals that it set for itself. Now, this right here is a PDF that Hyliion put out last year before it went public. This was Hyliion's own work. These aren't investors' expectations. These are Hyliion's estimates as to what they're going to do. We have Hyliion selling 300 hybrids this year and bringing in 8 million in revenue. Is that going to happen? Now, the 1 million didn't happen last year, but that's fine, I guess. But Hyliion said that they're going to sell 300 hybrids. Now, Hyliion said in their last earnings call that they're expected to go commercial with the hybrids at the latter half this year. So somewhere in the next 6 months, if they're going to meet these goals, somehow they're going to need to move 300. Are they going to meet these goals? Are they not? Now, I know over the long term that really doesn't matter that much, because in 10 years, am I going to be worried about whether Hyliion moved 300 units in 2021 when it kicked ass, for the years after that? No, I'm not going to be worried about that over the long term. But as of right now, pre-revenue, I am interested in Hyliion meeting its own goals. So is Hyliion going to meet this? We don't know. We still have 6 months to go. But one thing I am looking forward to in this earnings coming up is some guidance as to where this hybrid is headed. For example, they said the latter half of this year is when they're expecting to get revenue. Are they going to recognize revenue in the third quarter? Are they going to recognize revenue in the fourth quarter? Are they going to push back even further? That's something I want to hear. Now, if they don't meet these goals, that's not the end of the world as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to sell anything. That's fine. Like, this was put out a year ago. Like, things change as, the business actually starts and they get on with their project, plans derail. I would be interested in updates on this, but I'm not going to hold it against them entirely if they miss this by a little or even by a considerable amount. What I am going to hold them for is this right here. Now, this is what they said their last quarter. Like I said earlier, they're expecting to recognize revenue in the second half of 2021. So these are some recent goals that they set for themselves. I would be interested in some guidance as to how close they are to recognizing that revenue. That is something I'm definitely looking forward to. Now, as far as their Hypertrophy Erection, the product that they are really banking on making all their money from, like I said in the beginning of the video, from everything I've read, everything I've seen in their Twitter posts, their photos that they brought out, their customer interest, the reservations, I have no doubt in my mind that Hyliion is going to meet these deadlines. I have no doubt in my mind that commercialization will start in 2022, volume production will happen, and that the money will come in. I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to happen. So I guess as far as what I'm expecting for that is more what I'm wanting to not hear. So as long as I don't hear any delays, we're going to be fine. To summarize, I'm not expecting a whole lot from Hyliion financially this particular quarter. Like I said, they're expecting to recognize revenue at the latter half of this year. So I'm not expecting anything this quarter, although I'll be very surprised if we do get it. What I am expecting is some guidance as to how they're coming along with the revenue that they're expecting to receive at the second half of this year. I am expecting that. And I'm expecting some progress updates as to Hyliion meeting its own goals. Now, like I said many times in this video, I have no doubts in my mind, except for the hybrid thing. I have no doubts in my mind that Hyliion is going to achieve its goals, especially with the ERX, with the additional customer interest. And I have no doubt in my mind that over the next couple of years, Hyliion is going to be a major contender in the EV industry. And now that I said that, hopefully next week's earnings don't prove me wrong. Now let's talk about what I'm doing with the stock. And I do have an all-in strategy on Hyliion. Now, if you've been watching my previous videos on Hyliion, you know that Hyliion is still a spec play in my book. I know I say that every video, but I have to keep saying it. Everything I've heard from Hyliion, everything I've read from Hyliion has been very positive, and I am very upbeat about this stock this and next year. The clincher for me, the thing that's going to, pull the trigger as far as me going all in a stock is revenue. Once Hyliion proves to me that it can generate sales, that's my all-in trigger. So if that happens this quarter, I'm going to start investing heavily into Hyliion. And like I said, the stock price doesn't matter. If Hyliion posts revenue and I like the rest of the earnings and Hyliion stock drops 20%, even for right now, I will go all in. Now, as far as all in, I'm not going to deploy my entire money. I will go all in chunks, but I will be start buying heavily. I will be loading the boat on this stock. But anyways, take care, have a good day, and eat your vegetables.